Of all the financial titans and philanthropists of the 20th century, none are more complex or mysterious than George Soros. Like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and the Rockefellers, he amassed billions through ruthless business decisions, only to turn around and give away most of his fortune to advance his own personal philosophy. He can move world financial markets simply by voicing an opinion, or destabilize a government by buying and selling its currency. He also pledged more aid last year to help people in Russia than the U.S. government did.
Few people have been called kingmaker, philanthropist, world changer, and possible war criminal, all wrapped in the same person. One man has worn all of these crowns and has been proclaimed as one of the greatest humanitarians in history, adored by the progressive left worldwide. He has also been called a villain, criminal, and robber baron, responsible for the destruction of economies and societies, making billions at the expense of the very people he claims to assist.
They're always pushing health, wealth, better understand self, and giving praise to the Most High. So in this video, we're going over George Soros and how he is the puppet master for the Black community. So on my channel, I go over a lot of how the Black community needs to eliminate the gangs, the type of music we listen to, the Black Greek organizations, the Divine Nine, and the 501c and the churches that don't be involved in helping the community, right? I think if we eliminate a lot of things, and a lot of this has to do with George Soros, I think that we will be able to prosper like we should. Now, if you're not familiar with George Soros, he is behind a lot of the Black Democrats that's in office.
So here, George Soros does not live in Austin, Texas. Don't think he ever has. He's not actually from this country originally. Why would he want Austin, Texas to have fewer police officers on the street?
That's a very good question. And first and foremost, I'm so tired of the left pretending like we've picked George Soros to be our boogeyman. Like, oh, he's not a bad guy, but there goes the right talking about George Soros. Every time this man spends money, it is towards an effort that is going to undo American civilization. Notoriously, obviously, he defunded Black Lives Matter, all the rioting, all the protests, the Open Foundation Society, which is his foundation, gave money to all these causes. And you ask yourself, why? He's a billionaire. If he wanted to help people or help Black people, he doesn't need to give to Black Lives Matter. He can give it to tons of other causes that actually do work to help Black people and don't destroy their communities. But here we have him again in the same type of initiative going against police officers. And you ask yourself, why? Well, you know, if I'm going to fathom an idea or theory as to why he's doing this, George Soros is a man that made his money in investments. So we have to ask ourselves, what is he doing? What is he invested in that his investments would go long? He would do well in his investments if America was undone, if major cities were undone. I don't know. Maybe he's going long on China. Why would he benefit from an America that doesn't really exist? I've also said this to you many times in the past, Tucker, and I want to say it again. I think what the left is after more than anything is the federalization of the police force. I've been saying this over and over again. Look at the American story right now. It is the exact same story of every country that has converted from a capitalist, thriving society into a socialist society. They need to federalize the police force to make sure that the federal government has the most control. It's the only thing that makes sense. Again, the question, why does George Soros want to see that? Why does George Soros want to see the collapse of America? Well, he has to be invested in a country that isn't America.
I think that's a really good hypothesis. I think
now some even say that George Soros is out here trying to control the population. Okay. Some even may go as to say that he is pushing LGBTQ community to control population. And that's something that we seriously have to look at. And if you look in the Black community, we see now that there are more and more LGBTQ men and women that have us further thinking that this could be for population control.
There's a lot of different fears people have. There's a lot of different fears people have. You know, there's a fear about overpopulation. Oh, that's one of the biggest fears that we have was overpopulation. Elon Musk comes out and talks about the underpopulation. We need
declining population.
If you go really look at the founder of Planned Parenthood and see what the hell her vision was and how she was worried about all these kids being made, and if you see her interview with Wallace, just go watch this 26-minute interview with Wallace, and you'll see what she says. When he asks the question, do you believe there's such a thing as a sin? Do you think we're committing sins by preventing these kids? No, I think we're doing the right thing because these kids shouldn't be born in this difficult life and all this other stuff. No problem. Statistically speaking, and then morally speaking, I'll give you statistically first, and then we'll go morally. Statistically, China, when you look at their population, a inverted pyramid is when a society is healthy, meaning a pyramid is where society is healthy, meaning the youngest at the bottom, 0 to 4 in China in 1950, the biggest percentage of the China's population in 1950, you can pull this up as well, was 0 to 4, okay? Then it's 5 to 8 and all this other stuff, right, when you look at their age. So today, China's the complete opposite.
They have tons of old people, not enough young people to support them.
And their cost of Medicare just 20 years ago was $500 billion. Last year was $8 trillion. They don't know what to do with this. They're dealing with this 4-to-1 rule, which is for every one kid. He has to take care of 2 of his parents and 4 of his grandparents. But 1978, 1979, they came up with a one-child policy. China took it. They used to do 4, 5, 6 kids. Per now, it's 1.1 is where they are. So in the U.S., do they want to
Oh shit, is this our democratic free way of combating a rising population?
By getting...
You see what China's... Well, this is the shit that I'm talking about. This is... Just a second ago, we were talking about how do you plan out 100 years? And who are these figures that are planning out 100 years? In America, we can't say, you're just going to have one You're just gonna have one kid because we put freedom in the fucking Constitution in the beginning. And I know the powers that be right now are like, what fucking idiots did that? 1776 has made my life so difficult. Now I gotta manipulate Americans into doing something that they might not want to do through the guise of freedom, right? So, holy shit, they see the advantage that China might have by reducing their population. We have to find a way to reduce our population. And now you got women on the streets going, scoop those babies out of your uterus.
So, by the way, that's one though.
Fuck me.
Planned Parenthood would be one element. You know what the other one is? Here's what the other one is.
Gays.
Okay, you saw Bill Maher talk. Bill Maher, by the way, you saw what Bill Maher talked about? Have you ever seen the statistic by generation? Which generation has the most LGBTQ members? Have you seen this? Can you pull up LGBTQ community by generations, okay?
Yeah.
We all know about the music industry in the Black community. We know about all of our artists that own music, don't own music, and they always seem to get robbed. And the music that we put out, it's more destructive than when it started. When our music started, it was more soulful. It was more preaching for progression in the community. But now it turned into destruction.
By this guy named George, last name Soros. Okay. So what, Pat? What's the big deal behind this? So, then we go to a completely different space. You look at Hollywood, what announcement they just made, right? I don't know if you guys saw the announcement they made last week. Hollywood made an announcement, the Academies made an announcement last week. Moving forward, for you to be considered to win an Oscar, you have to have a third of your crew or the main actors or even supporting cast or even people behind the camera be part of the underrepresented community, which the underrepresented community is LGBTQ. I think it's women, it's Black, it's disabled, it's all these things that they have, right? Yeah. If you don't have a third be a part of that, guess what? You are not able to get nominated for an Oscar, which means if we go to Titanic, would have never been nominated and would have never won. If we go to Godfather, it's not going to happen. If we go to all the, Saving Private Ryan, not going to happen. You go to all these great movies that have won Oscars, that'll never happen. So what does this do? A Richard Dreyfuss comes out and says, wait a minute, what are you talking about? The whole concept of being creative was for me to be let loose so I can do what I'm doing. By the way, here's a part that Hollywood has completely lost their mind. Do you know why movies in America went to Hollywood? Do you know the story behind why we make movies in Hollywood in the 20s? Do you know how
Nobody would hire the Jews. So the Jews went out and made Hollywood.
But where did they escape from? Where did they leave and who dictated the rules? You know who dictated the rules of Hollywood and movie making?
Who?
A guy named Thomas Edison from Jersey. They left Jersey because Thomas Edison had all these guidelines of making stuff that you have to do. You have to go through this, you have to go through that. They controlled all of it. You can type in Thomas Edison, 1920 Jersey, Hollywood leaving, you'll see the article.
A lot of people want to know, how does Black Greek organizations in here in America, where people call themselves the Black Greeks, how it aligns with George Soros and his ability to have control over Greece's financial stability. So it kind of makes sense to me of why he is in control of the Greek life and all of the politicians that claims Black Greeks, and they all become Democrats for some reason.
Now, there's so much talk, of course, about what's being here said, which are issues very close to your heart. But first of all, I want to talk to you about Greeks, because this is what investors, what the markets don't seem to understand. It's so expensive now to borrow Greek debt. Is this country going to default?
It should not default, and there is a solution, but there is a need to understand that when there is a rescue effort, which Europe is now putting together, it has got to be at a concessional rate of interest, not at the market rate. Because the market rate reflects all the uncertainties and the doubts about the political will to have a rescue. Now, if there is that will, and I think there is, then a rescue is easily.
You were a great supporter of Barack Obama. You helped raise money. You gave a good bit of money yourself. Are you satisfied with the job Barack Obama has done?
No, I'm not satisfied. The solution that he found to the financial crisis, which was to effectively bail out the banks and allow them to earn their way out of the hole, it was, in my opinion, not the right solution. He should have compulsorily replaced the capital that was lost.
Which in effect would have been nationalizing the banks.
This is what they call nationalizing the banks. And he made the political decision that that is un-American, will not be accepted.
What about the broader issue of Obama's leadership? Not just the bank bailout, but on the dealing with the auto companies, dealing with the housing market, dealing with the economy, the stimulus. I mean, on all those issues, I think you can look at any one by itself, but I think he's done pretty well, and I think hasn't in some ways gotten the credit for it because the crisis was averted. And so now the Republicans can say, there was no problem. We didn't need to spend all this money.
That's exactly right. He's paying a very heavy price for actually saving the country from going into a very deep recession or depression because people haven't experienced it. And he wanted to be the great uniter, and he wanted to carry the country, sort of bring it together. But the other side had absolutely no incentive to do it. So it takes two to tango. So that approach has failed. And I think he, in Massachusetts, he got the message. And I hope that actually now he's taking the healthcare back to Congress and overcoming the filibuster, the 60.
So, to sum it all up, George Soros is definitely a problem in the black community. He has other problems and other things that he controls, but just like Greece and a lot of other countries that he may be in, funneling immigrants in there, he has a real hold on the black community. And if we don't expose this and let people know that we are no longer letting you have ties that has to do with this man and have to do anything with our community, it'll continue to stay where it's at. I appreciate y'all for tapping in with me. Definitely, I am a water treatment specialist, so I specialize in purifying water for homeowners. If it's a reverse osmosis, softeners, sulfur tanks, carbon tanks, we do it all. We manufacture. So make sure you text the phone number in the description to Fix My Water, and we'll definitely give you a free consultation. I appreciate y'all. Peace and love.
You are totally dependent on other people to take care of your needs because you don't have those roots sunk into the ground. To have a community, you must have three things to have a community in it. You must have a wholly independent economic structure that can provide goods, service, products, and things for your own people, and jobs and tax spaces for your own people. You should at least control 4 basic things. You should be trying to control water, food, medicine, and energy to be able to survive.
Here we got Mr. Pollock. He had a cornfield. He took advantage of a free water test from us, and this is what we found in this water. We found sulfur, we found hardness, and we solved these problems with an easy fix of 2 tanks. So get your free water test today. Stay blessed. Click the link below.